to It's Okay to Be Gay, the podcast.
David, so you may have noticed that I'm sitting not in my normal spot, if you watch the video of this.
I did notice that because I am
Yeah.
watching the video of this.
Yeah, well, anyway, for our listeners who have no idea where I normally sit, I'm normally in my kitchen,
This is
which
true.
sounds weird, but it works. But yeah, I'm in my recliner, because I'm currently icing my hip. Um,
Why are
so
you icing your hip, Veronica?
well, we won't go into the whole history, but I have really shitty hips. One is not shitty because it was fully replaced, but anyway, I'm dealing with some pretty bad tendonitis, and last week I decided I was like, you know what, tendonitis be damned, I'm gonna enjoy my summer, right?
There you
And
go.
softball started. Go
It
Green
did.
Lanterns. I was
What's
really
up?
excited about playing. And make a long story short, I basically got like tackled slash ran over at home plate, and my already jacked up hip is like extra jacked up. So I'm icing like a good patient, and I have
Good,
my leg up.
good job.
And I don't know what the rest of the softball season is going to look like, unfortunately.
Well, I hope that you recover quickly
I
and
hope so too.
fully, and
Thank
that
you.
you can get back to softball because that sounds like a great thing to do during the summer.
I know.
And it would really suck if you couldn't. So,
I agree. Otherwise, I'm still gonna go and keep score because someone needs to do that.
yeah, that's a good way to support your team. I
I
could,
love
I
my
could,
team.
I could applaud that. I could
They're
applaud
so
that.
good. David, this is a random question too, but like, what do you do during the summer? Like, do you do any outdoor shit and whatnot? I mean, what do you do for fun in the summer?
Um, I swim in my pool like daily
Oh
because
yeah,
we live in Texas and you can start using your pool at the end
in
of
like
April.
March. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
So, yeah, I do a lot of in my pool stuff. Start trying to take better care of my yard because if I don't, it all dries up. And so
That's true. You
start
do a lot of
having
yard
to
work.
pay, yeah, I have to pay a little more attention to it. And so because I'm paying a little more attention to it, I inevitably actually get something done outside with the yard. But yeah, I mean, I have like three parks that are within walking distance from my house. There's plenty to go and to see. Do I ever go to those parks? Not really, but I
No.
mean, they're there. They're
That's why I
there.
asked. I'm like, you don't like do any like activities, like not that you
Yeah,
have
not so
to,
much.
but like,
I just cleared out my garage actually, so I can
mm,
finally get to my two weight machines. And I decided that I was actually going to start using them now that I can get to them and there's not stuff piled all over and around
yay,
them. So
yeah,
expect me to look a little more fit. I know
just
it's
a
hard to
little more fit,
imagine.
David.
I know
I've
it's
been
hard
meaning
to
to talk to you
imagine.
about that because you've been looking a little squishy.
Squishy. It's nothing squishy. Look, you can see the veins in my arms.
David,
This is another good reason to
David,
watch
I'm
us
just
on
fucking with
YouTube.
you. David is as ripped and as ripe as a frickin' beautiful avocado. So
Oh,
he's not
thanks.
squishy by any means.
Avocados are a little
Never.
lumpy. I don't know if that was
I
the
don't.
best.
I'm sorry. I couldn't think of another good fruit analogy. You're
That's
as, I don't know, as ripped as a wave. Is that good?
a, I don't know, a
Ripped?
wave.
Rip
Are
curl?
waves ripped?
Rip curl? I don't know. I'm
Mm,
really bad at these right now.
that's okay. I'll let. All right. So write us in. Somebody. We need a fruit analogy for somebody who's muscular and
Mm.
defined.
Mhm.
You are as ripped as a pineapple. You know, like your
Mm.
abs look like a pineapple. I don't know.
I
I'm
don't
losing
know.
it. All right, we need to get off
We're
this
both
topic.
losing it. Yeah, we need to
Yeah.
we need to get a
So
train of thought.
sadly, I just finished the rest of my wine. So I'm going to have to move over to milk. So that's on the agenda for tonight.
I
I,
laugh, but I like milk just as much as you do.
I think I think
Midwest,
it's a battle
Midwest
for
thing.
who likes it more between the two of
Hmm.
us.
We're
I will
gonna, you
fight
know what?
you.
We'll report back on who goes through a gallon of milk faster.
There you go. We should do the milk chug challenge. I
No, I
think
won't do that.
Okay, because you know you'd lose, so that's fine. It's fine.
Absolutely. I don't mind losing that. That's fine.
Well, for those of you out there listening, you are tuning in to the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast, and this is Miss Veronica Witt.
And this is Mr. David Van Ettenwit.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to another wonderful episode of, well, we hope it's going to be a wonderful episode of the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast. I
They're
have a
always
good feeling.
wonderful.
I
They're
have a
always
good feeling.
wonderful.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well so far. Our last recording, I mentioned that we had listeners all over the world. And I just wanted to mention for everybody out there who is interested, we actually picked up another two countries. So that's very exciting where we have listeners now. So, not sure where these people are finding the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast, but they are and they're listening. And I'm very excited that we have people from all age groups and from all around the world listening to the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast. So that's really awesome. So
Okay,
thank
so
you
what
guys
are the
for supporting
two
us.
what are the two countries? Or are we gonna take polls? I suppose the
Oh,
stat is up there, is it? Maybe
we
not.
we have we have Japan and Germany also. So
Oh, those are the two newest
uh-huh.
countries.
Yeah.
Excellent. Deutschland, sehr
Um,
gut.
there you go. Yeah,
Jawohl.
Veronica will speak to you in German later
Yeah,
on her own
amazing.
podcast where we speak German because
After I drink wine.
there you go. We can have your mom on and she can fill in the gaps. I'm sure Betty would love that.
Let's not.
Oh, okay. She'd be like, "What's this thing? How does this work?"
Poor Betty.
I love it.
Oh,
So, if you are listening, you are probably wondering who is going to be on the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast right now. Because if you looked at the title of this podcast, you might be a little curious as to why we are having somebody uh, who is a pup on the podcast. Well, I want to get right into it. So, Veronica, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it then. Veronica, I'm so excited. This is Mr. Kris. Kris is somebody that I knew from back in the day when I would pounce around the
hmm
street, Cedar
Oh,
Springs.
How
very much so.
proud.
Pounce and frolic
Pounce.
and all the good things.
Yes. So, Kris, welcome to the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast. We're so
Yeah.
glad that you're joining us. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Welcome, Kris. Glad to meet you too.
Yeah. So I know a little bit about your background, Kris, and your story, but Veronica doesn't know you as well. And I'm sure everybody out there who is watching and or listening is also very curious as to what brings you to the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast today. So I figured I would just have you share a little bit about your background, talk about where you're from, how you grew up, and just kind of be as detailed and as interesting as you would like to be. But go on right ahead. So
All
it's
right.
all you mean.
So I was born in Dallas, Texas, not too long ago, actually many years ago, but we'll go back more into the second birthing of me a little bit later. That wasn't too long ago, which is also what brings me to the podcast. So if you want to hear about that, you want to listen. But
Yay.
Stick
um,
around.
I have four siblings. I am the youngest of five. I actually only grew up with one of my siblings. Her and I got really close. She was kind of my confidant. She was the person that I looked up to growing up. She was the one who primarily helped my parents raise me because it was just her and I in the house, and they worked different schedules. And then whenever they worked in the same schedule, it would just be us two alone. And she's 8 years older than me, I want to say. So there's quite a big age gap there. Um, Whenever I was in seventh grade, we moved to where my parents live now, which is in Grapevine. And that was kind of a pivotal changing in my life because before that, I was bullied all the time. I wasn't quite sure why. My earpod is falling out too, but I was bullied all the time. People called me all sorts of names. You could think of it, and they could say it. I had really bad acne. I was overweight. So what their favorite thing to do was to stand in front of me and go like this and like say, "Oh, look, I see a spaceship over there on his face, or I see a unicorn, or I see this, or I see that." and they would
Oh.
throw balls by my head too, to make me flinch because I was very skittish. Like the things that they did never got really physical, but the
Sure.
emotional was definitely there.
Yeah, which
Um,
is the worst type of bullying, I think.
right.
You talked about your siblings. How old were your older siblings? Your closest sister was 8 years older
Mm-hmm.
than you. Was everybody else like much older, or
Yes.
what? Okay, so
Yep.
they had grown up and moved out at that point. Is that, or what
No,
were they
sir.
doing with you?
So the way that that went is my dad had three kids. My mom had one kid, and then they got together and had me.
Okay, so
Um,
mixed bag.
yeah, it was definitely a mixed batch. We were quite the motley crew. Um, but growing up, whenever my siblings were around, like my dad's kids,
Hmm.
they were also kind of the ones that looked out for me. I mean, they did their own things to me that they have since regretfully admitted to and been like, hey, that was not cool of us to take you places in the neighborhood and say, hey, wait right here, we'll be right back, and then just never come back for me.
Oh no.
Yeah, places in our trailer park, they'd just like, hey, wait right here, little Kris, because that was my nickname, and then just never show up.
Oh.
But they've apologized for that. So what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get at is like the bullying wasn't just in school; it was also in the neighborhood too. Up
Yeah.
Gotcha.
until I went to seventh grade, whenever halfway through seventh grade, my dad got really sick, and he ended up moving us to Grapevine because he wanted us to have a better life. And
Hmm.
that's where I met one of my best friends at the time. She's still my best friend to this day, and she's one of the first people that I decided to come out to. And whenever I did, it was just kind of like this heavy weight lifted off my heart kind of
Yeah.
Hmm.
situation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
Was
is
it?
Grapevine is it a lot smaller town? Like explain the makeup for what town compared to your initial.
Grapevine was is right by the airport, right by DFW airport. Um,
Oh,
it's very mixed. There's no key differences in it compared to Grand Prairie, other than how I
oh,
was treated as a person.
okay. Got it. Got it. So not such a big like change necessarily with the environment of the city, but
Right.
just the people were fresh for you.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
were fresh, people were a lot more welcoming, people were a lot more loving. That's where I ended up starting doing martial arts, which really helped me with my confidence. And I think doing martial arts also helped give me a family, like my first chosen family,
Hmm.
um,
Okay.
because things were just healthier. My
Yeah.
Sure.
my at-home life was healthier, living in Grapevine. The martial arts gave me motherly figures, fatherly figures, brothers, sisters that I never knew I could have or wanted.
Yeah.
What year did you? How old were you when you started getting into the martial arts thing?
I was in seventh grade. I want to say that since I was a year older than everybody in my grade, because my parents held me back a year in kindergarten, I want to say that I was either around 12 or so whenever I started.
Okay.
So I was a preteen, and they helped me through a lot of trauma,
Hmm.
from where
We
I had what
yeah,
I
we've
had gone
talked a
through.
lot about these chosen families of ours and how
Hmm.
integral those people are to our lives, especially coming from, sometimes, I don't want to say broken homes because that's just whatever, but just home
Unhealthier
life.
situations.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, because I would say unhealthy because my home wasn't like broken or anything like that. Like we
Yeah.
were we were pretty
Un-
close. And at the end of the day, like my parents had my back, and I
Hmm.
don't
yeah.
I don't hate them for any way that I grew up. As a matter of fact, I'm glad that I went through the things that I went through because it's part of what made me who I am today.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's
Yeah.
taken a long time to learn and accept, for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. So seventh grade moved out to Grapevine, which Veronica does, just to explain, and maybe other people don't know the area as well. Grapevine is just one of the suburbs in the Dallas area. It is right by the airport, like Kris said, but it's a little city in and of itself, and it's a great town. So it's neat that you were out that way. But what was it also, Kris, at like kind of seventh grade? You said things started to turn around for you, like just being around new people and
Hmm.
having new friends was a good shift for you. Do, do you think that there was any um, when you were talking about being bullied as a younger uh, child before kind of the seventh grade
Hmm.
move? Like, is there like a reason you think that you were so picked on, or what was the kind of the, if you want to go into that, maybe
Yeah,
there's something.
no. I think that kids kids and people, like humanity, studies have shown that we as people, we ostracize and we look to people that are different, even if we don't know why, and we kind
Hmm.
of like put them aside. There's always got to be an outlier. In every
Mm-hmm.
community that you go to, there's always that one kid that's kind of an outlier, and they just happen to choose me for whatever reason. Um, I was called
Gotcha.
faggot, I was called fag boy, I was called little queer boy, and I didn't even know what those words meant. I was called
Right.
Yeah.
pervy, gross, disgusting, but I did things that looking back on it, I regret doing for attention, but even negative attention was attention to me, and that's what I so desperately wanted from my peers.
Sure.
Gotcha. That's rough, man. But so seventh grade turned things around a little bit.
Hmm.
Where did things go from there?
From there, martial arts was definitely a pivotal part of my life. It kind of I could have gone downhill real fast. I could have been just angry and hateful and mean and rude.
Mhm.
But they taught me six principles that I live to this day. I'm not really going to go into those, but let's just say that they're characteristics, they're pillars of who I am. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever I eventually came out to them, they basically told me with tears in my eyes. I don't know if there were tears in their eyes, but we
Mm-hmm.
love you, Kris, and we accept you, and we always knew that you were gay. We knew that you were not different per se, but we knew that you were special.
Yeah.
Um, and that was just like an eye-opening experience for me because they I had these predispositions that they were going to be differently responsive of it because of their
Mhm.
Christianity, because of their faith. Because I had these recollections from being a kid and how growing up around people that went to church and how being gay was a bad thing and you're going to hell. And they basically were the first people to tell me, like, hey, we love and accept you because that's what we should do. And there's nothing
Right.
Yeah.
wrong with you.
Oh,
So,
it's
uh, uh,
nice.
yeah. About when did you recognize that you had an inclination towards same-sex attraction? Like when, because it said you moved out to seventh
Mm.
grade and got involved in martial arts, and then eventually came out to them. But what did the timeline look like? That was it months? Was it years? Was it
I knew from a very, very early age, actually. Um,
okay?
the words that people told me, I mean, whenever they called me faggot, my mom would always just tell me it just means bundle of sticks, or it means when they call you gay, it just means you're happy, like, or it means
Yeah,
you're a
sure.
cigarette, like, so I didn't, like, none of that shaped me into these dispositions that I have. Disposition is
Okay,
kind of a negative word for it. I can't think of the right word for it, but whenever I was in fifth grade, we had sex ed. And I remember being really interested in the male parts more than the female parts.
Mm-hmm.
hmm,
And eventually it got to a point where I started looking at men a little bit differently. And I started realizing, oh, this guy is kind of attractive to me. I kind of enjoy being around them. I enjoy talking to them, um, and stuff like that. There for a while, because I mean, the town that I grew up in, they started sex ed really early because it was common for high schoolers to be pregnant and stuff. Um,
sure.
but there was an instance in which a girl assaulted me, and there were several girls that attempted to assault me sexually. And for the
Oh,
longest time, I kind of thought because of what that girl did to me, maybe that's why I'm broken. And I really thought I was broken for a very long time because of that, because there were other girls that were trying to do, sexual acts with me. And
hmm.
this was whenever I lived in Grand Prairie, anyways. And I
I was
kind of
gonna
kept
ask
those
how
secrets.
young
Yeah.
were you?
I was in sixth. No, I was 7 or 8. I was 7 or 8 when
Okay.
this happened.
Wow.
I was staying the night at her house, and after she had a sleepover for her birthday, and I was the last one there. And we went to the pool, we hung out, and then she told me she was really depressed because her boyfriend broke up with her, and she was quite older than me. She was 13.
Oh,
Um,
Okay.
but
wow.
I did what she wanted and what she said because she
Mm.
told me if you don't do what I say, I'm going to tell your parents, and they're going to believe
Oh,
me over you because I'm older.
wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yikes.
So that was. that was something I struggled with, and therapies helped me kind of get through that. That there's nothing wrong with. I mean, yes, what was happened was wrong, but there's nothing wrong with me because of it.
Right.
That's not
Right.
why I have this predisposition to be interested in men more than women. Because initially, whenever I was younger, I came out to my parents as bisexual because I always
Hmm.
saw myself as like, oh, okay, like I'm interested in women romantically, but I don't see myself ever being with a woman sexually. And
Sure.
vice versa for men. I'm interested in men sexually, but I don't see myself ever being interested in a man romantically. And I held on to
Gotcha.
that for a very long time, that belief. Um, but my parents, they kind of freaked out when I told them. This was when we were
And
living in Grapevine,
Hmm.
okay.
and my mom told me that it was gross and she didn't understand it and she freaked out. And I eventually lied to them and said, "Hey, it was just a bad joke. I'm so sorry. I should have never joked about that."
Hmm.
And I
You
held
just
on
like
to that.
backtrack. Yeah.
Yeah, I backtracked. I reneged on it, and I was like, "No, no, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know why I did that. I'm stupid. I'm sorry for doing that. I'm sorry for worrying you." Because my dad was really worried about me getting hurt. Like he
Yeah.
came from a
Okay.
place of you're going to get hurt in the world being the way you are, and just keep it a secret.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and
So,
then
how old were you at that point? So was it a
I
little.
would have been 13 or 14 at this point.
Okay.
Because I had came out to my best friend at the time. Once again, I shouldn't say at the time because she's still my best friend to this day. After since seventh grade, she's my best friend and one of the most
Oh,
important people in my life. I tell her almost everything, and she was just like,
I didn't
"Okay,
need
so."
that.
That's basically what she said. She's
Yeah.
like, "So, like, okay, you like men and women, cool."
Gotcha. And so at 13, 14, you came out to your parents. They
hmm
got upset about it, didn't receive that really well, and you like walked that back and just sat on that for a while.
hmm Yeah,
Wow.
I sat on that. I mean, obviously, I was looking at men, thinking about men, stuff like that, but I was never really acting on it. I never acted on it until I turned 21. But about 20, almost 21, I went to Costa Rica, where I lived
Okay.
for a month and a half um, on a project, I guess is the best word for it, that
Mhm.
helps macaws and helps educate the public on the importance of, scarlet and great green macaws. And being away from my parents for that length of time was really eye-opening to me because I kind of learned there was somebody on the project who is trans, and
Hmm.
I had no idea about him until a little bit later on, like towards the end of him leaving. But one of the guys that I worked under, Fabio, is gay, and he told me that about his life. And then one day he asked me, he's like, "So, do you have a girlfriend back home?" And this whole conversation's in Spanish, and I'm trying to think of the words, and I'm like, "No, I don't have a girlfriend because I have birds, and my birds are my life. They're like my kids. I don't have time for girls." He's like, "Okay." And then when I
Yeah.
found out he was gay and that nobody cared about it, like I was with people from Boston, I was with people from New York, Australia, Germany, all over Europe, Canada,
Oh,
and nobody cared. And that's kind
yeah.
of
Yeah.
whenever I was like, why should I care? Why does it matter
Yeah.
that I like men and I have no
Right.
interest in women? Like, why is this such a big deal? And
Right.
one day, with tears in my eyes, I told Fabio, I'm like, "Fabio, I'm sorry, but I'm a liar." And he looked at me confused, and I told him, I'm like, "I like men." And he was the first person outside of my family that I told I liked men and only men. Because up to this
Hmm.
point, Jacqueline thought that I liked men and women. And
Hmm.
my dad I remember this, sorry to go back to before I went to Costa Rica, but I remember this like movie in my head. We were driving
Hmm.
down a road, and I was driving my Dodge truck, and I was taking him to Home Depot. And this was before I went on my trip, and he said, I was joking about fishing and how he had chopped up some fish on accident with a motorboat propeller out in Galveston. And I was like, "I'm a monster of your own creation." Um, and somehow he went into saying, "You said a lot." Oh, I said to him, "I say a lot of things. I got a big mouth. What can I say?" And he said, his response to that was, "I know you've said a lot of things, and I know you know what I'm talking about, but I know, your mother doesn't know, your sister doesn't know, but I know. And just don't tell anybody because I don't want you getting hurt.
Oh,
And I love you and I accept you. I don't
oh,
like it, but I still love you. And I remember
oh,
sitting there with my hands on the wheel, like just like staring straight ahead, not looking at him, not looking at anything, trying not to choke back tears. And I was quiet up until we got back from the store.
Oh,
Because
wow.
that was basically him telling me, like, hey, it's okay to be gay. It's okay to be who you are. I don't like it, but I
Yeah,
still love you because you're my son at the end of the day.
yeah,
hmm,
that's awesome. I
that's a nice
mean,
deception. Yeah,
we hear, I just, it's amazing hearing the common threads between
Hmm.
people's stories. And you know, I love hearing that there are the parents out there that while they might have something like as a whole, they don't like it, quote
Hmm.
unquote, but that they love and accept you, and that's the first response that they have. That's so beautiful that parents have that, because
Hmm.
we've heard completely the opposite. So um
yeah,
I'm glad that that was his response for
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
That's
Yeah, that
that's sweet.
it meant a lot to me. I mean, some of his actions after the fact I didn't really appreciate. Like
Sure.
making me
sure.
tell people about my sexuality after I ended up coming out to my mom, and then I got into an argument with my sister about it, and I told her. And I remember yelling at my sister one night because we lived together at the time, and I told her, Mom may not like it, Dad may not like it, and neither one of them may accept about this about me, but I like men, and I really don't give a what you think.
Hmm.
There you go.
And I think I gained a lot of her respect then. Um, we didn't really
Yeah,
talk about it for a little bit. We still don't really talk about it to this day. But I know I can mention like guys that I've gone on dates with and stuff like that, and she doesn't bat an eye at it. My mom,
Yeah.
who grew up in the South, and grew up going to church, um, she didn't really like it at first. I mean, she was the one who was more against it than my dad. When I eventually
Hmm.
told her, like, yes, I do like men and I have no interest in women, she
right.
eventually has gone to a point now to this day where she'll ask me, she's like, so have you gone on any dates with guys recently? Are
Oh.
you boyfriend and boyfriend yet? What's his name? What's he like? What does he look like? Things like that. And
Oh.
like my mom is my
Oh,
biggest supporter.
oh,
Oh.
Ever since I was
that's
a kid, she basically told me without directly telling me, be as you are. She would tell me, be as you are. Just be you. Like, don't
Yeah.
worry about what other people say or think.
Oh.
it's really nice to hear. But it took her a little while to come around
Right.
to all of that. Do you think that they're in the back of her mind, like she was hoping that you would walk that back again or
Mm,
change your mind again?
most
And
definitely. Because there for a while, she would tell me like, "Were you kidding? Were you serious?" And then we just had to talk about it. And then she met my boyfriend, my first boyfriend, ever. I actually brought to my house one day for Fourth of July, and she just fell in
uh-huh.
love with him. She's
Oh,
To this day, him and I are still really close friends, and she still asks about him. She's like, "How is he doing? What's he been up to? When did you see him last?" and stuff like that.
oh,
Oh.
that's cute. Was there a going back in your story just a little bit because I'm
Hmm.
curious, like what the gaps were in high school? Were things like obviously you knew that you were gay, and there were a couple people that knew that you were gay. What was your high school time? Was it better than in middle school and elementary school, or
By no means. Obviously, I wasn't out in high school except to one person outside of my family, and my family didn't really know about it
okay?
either because I had jokingly said, "Oh no, it's just a lie." Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I remember I would ostracize the gay kid that was in my school, and I still feel bad about it to this day because I have a guilty conscience. And I would be
Mm,
like, I would make little side remarks at him whenever he'd walk by, and I would just look at him differently.
mm-hmm,
And I haven't talked to him since. But there was somebody else that I did that same thing to. That was my employee when I was working at Starbucks, and I had to pull him to the back one day, and I was like, "Hey, I'm so sorry, but the reason why I've been so mean to you is because what you epitomize what I hate about myself. You
right.
are flamboyant. You like men. You don't give a shit what people think. You don't care what people say. You are living your
Right.
best authentic life. And then he started crying and I started crying, and then the milk started sweating because I had milk in my hands and I was trying to take it out front. It was there was a lot of water on the floor, needless to say, in the back of that
Yeah.
Starbucks room.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
So if,
yeah, I think that's very common though, Kris, to like find the one person that is living your truth
Mm-hmm.
when you're not ready to accept or to be open about your truth. And yeah, I've heard that many times before, that people picked on the person that was the oddball, or people
Right.
picked on because it was then people wouldn't pick on you
Mm-hmm.
because you were also doing the same thing they were doing, and it was safer for yourself. It's not
Right.
right by, but yeah,
so
interesting.
did you ever get to, apologize, or did you ever want to apologize to that kid in high school?
Oh, most definitely. I think about him often. Um,
Yeah.
and I would love to be able to just like, if I ever saw him again, or if he added me on Facebook for whatever reason, just be like, hey, I was not very nice to you in high school. Everybody else was, but I wasn't, and I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe he's listening.
Maybe he's listening. That'd be great.
And that
Wherever
is
you
a
are.
story. I love it.
That's
Very
great.
cool. So you went to Costa Rica when
Uh-huh.
you were 21. That kind of opened your eyes to, you were around some other people who just didn't care
Mm-hmm.
that, gay people in the world, it was okay. And you met some people that were part of the LGBTQ community. And so you came home from Costa Rica and started living your
Mm-hmm.
life a little more freely. Would
Right.
that be safe to say?
That
Like,
Kris was
okay.
like,
beautiful
I
word
don't give
for
a
it.
fuck anymore. It's
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Veronica, you are so right. Like it was basically because I basically told my parents I don't give a shit anymore. Guess what I'm doing
Yeah.
now? I just got hired at a gay
Good.
bar. So I
Yeah.
literally came out and then started working in a gay bar, which is where I met David. Funny
Yes.
enough.
Yay.
So, and I'm glad I did too, because he was always very nice to me. He was always very accepting. I mean, he was one of the first people like to come up to me and be like, "Hey, what's your name? Like, how are you doing?" Stuff like
Oh,
that.
good. I'm glad you remember the positives. And
Yes.
I do try to be nice to most people I meet
Right.
out, and like you were a very nice person, so you get what you give back, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, if you had come up to me and been a total jerk or something, I probably would have given that right back to you.
Right.
Um, so yeah, no, but for sure. Yeah, at the bar on the strip, which maybe I don't see any reason to or to not mention it, but yeah,
Right.
Dallas has some great gay bars
It
and great gay
does.
clubs.
Give
Check
it a
out
shout out.
if you're ever in town. It's a great little community
Mm-hmm.
down there. So you immediately started working at this gay bar
Mm-hmm.
and started just accepting that that's who you were. Were you still living at home at that time, or were
Yep.
you having your okay? So your parents were more or less like okay with
They
it at
had to
that
accept
point,
it.
or did
Pretty
it?
much.
Okay.
I made them accept it. I ended up moving out shortly after, living with my brother. Um,
Mhm.
and then I ended up moving back into my parents' house to help them out. And just because it helped me out too. Um,
Sure.
and I had a few different jobs here and there, but whenever I would meet people like at these new jobs, they never really asked if I was gay, but I wasn't hiding it either. Like I didn't have,
Sure.
after my big coming out, whenever I was 21, I basically started being like, it would just become a conversation. I'd be like, oh, hey, that guy's handsome, or I think that guy is,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to go flirt with that guy, or something like that. It's just something that I don't feel like it's something that I have to just be like, hi, I'm Kris and I'm gay. It's just something that is.
Right. Which we've talked about this too. Like as a
Yeah.
straight woman, I don't have to
Right.
come out,
Yeah.
right?
I
And neither should you. Neither should
yeah.
anyone. If you want to, great.
Mm-hmm.
If
More
people want
power
to
to
introduce
you.
themselves, but you don't have to, and you shouldn't feel pressure to have to be like, hey, this
Yeah.
is who I am. Like, just be who you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's funny because I think it was the other Kris that was on the podcast before, the one about the psych major,
Yeah.
and we were having a very similar conversation, which I think part of his episode actually got cut off at the
Oh
end, but
no.
I'll sum up. Like and it's fine. We made it work. So If you listen to it, you probably didn't even realize
Hmm.
because I worked my magic. But we were talking about him and his professional career and everything, and I'm like, well, how is that going for you now? And he's in his late 30s and everything, and he was like, well, yeah, I mean, if it comes up, it comes up, but I don't. Basically, exactly what you said.
Hmm.
He said, I don't go up to people and say, hi, I'm Kris and I'm gay.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
maybe remember that. But and you're right, Veronica. Like it shouldn't be something that we have to like say. But we've also had people on the podcast who have decided that it works for them
Hmm.
because they use different pronouns and they
Right.
associate
Oh,
in a different type of lifestyle to introduce
Yeah.
themselves and to include that
most
into their.
definitely.
But you're right, Kris, also that like you shouldn't have to, and it's not necessary if you don't feel like you don't need to do that. There's no
Right.
reason to do that.
I mean,
So
for a while, I didn't understand a lot of things about being gay, because I did
mhm.
kind of have a sheltered life. I mean, for a while, it would bother me when people would just come up to me like, "Oh yeah, by the way, my pronouns are he, him, or they, or something like that." And it took a couple years of just being in the community to be like, that's part of who they are, and that's what makes them feel more
Hmm.
comfortable. So why should I care? That's kind of how I've
Right.
Right.
learned to live my life. Is you're not hurting me, I'm not hurting you, and you're not hurting anybody
Yes.
else. So why should it matter what I do?
Yeah.
And
And everyone's just asking for, to just be treated with respect. And if
mhm,
that's something that makes you feel respected as a human being,
right.
then great. I will absolutely oblige. And, if that's something that you offer, you know, about you and that's important,
Hmm.
why wouldn't I abide? You're otherwise you're just a jackass. Like,
Exactly. Like you get to know the person better.
right.
Yeah,
Like I
Yeah.
know
that's perfect.
I was at PetSmart. Side note, sorry, I was at PetSmart about a month or so ago, and there was a young guy working the register, and the simple fact that I noticed his name was a male name, and I said yes sir, no sir to him. He told me
Hmm.
as I was leaving, he was like, I just got misgendered by somebody, and the fact that you did that for me, even though I'm not 100% obviously male, you called me by the things that I so desperately want in life.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
that made me feel good because that's what I feel like I'm put here for. Everybody has a
yeah.
purpose,
Yeah.
and I feel like my purpose is to help others and make them feel better whenever possible.
No,
Absolutely.
So,
well,
And
that's
it's
a
about
beautiful.
being seen, and you
hmm,
obviously like are aware of that,
yeah,
and you made that person feel seen
exactly.
in
Yeah.
like the simplest of manners, right?
Yeah,
Like it didn't take you more than a second to say
yeah.
yes, sir.
And I didn't even think about it. It just
It's
popped out. And then just because
yeah,
I noticed his name, and that's what I
right.
would
Right.
do for anybody. And if
Yeah,
what if he had different pronouns and he had corrected me? That would have been great too. I would have been, oh, I'm so sorry. And
yep,
that's just how it should be to me. Like if somebody
Hmm.
corrects
yeah,
you in a polite way, you should reciprocate in a polite way as well, instead of being like, "Ugh,"
absolutely.
like whatever. You shouldn't be like that.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Don't
Right.
scoff. I mean, it's like introducing
hmm,
yourself. Say you have a name that could be pronounced multiple different ways, and
right.
someone sees your name tag and pronounces it wrong. And if you kindly correct them, and someone is like, "Pfft, okay,
Hmm.
and acts like like an asshole, like it's just rude. Like let's just be common, like decency here with people. That's
Hmm.
it. I agree.
Exactly. That golden rule that goes back millennia.
Hmm.
Just treat other people like you want to be treated,
Exactly.
and that's just how the world should roll. And unfortunately, it doesn't at all ever.
Hmm.
I'm just kidding. Every once in a while, like you, Kris, we find a great person
Oh,
who's
thank you.
aware of people's existence and appreciates them just being themselves. So yeah, but no,
Can I
um,
can I interject?
Hmm?
So you said you have birds, right? Is
Yes.
that do you have do you have like parrots, macaws, and stuff?
Yes, so at my parents' house, because where I live now, I don't have space for them. There is a
Uh
blue
huh.
and gold macaw named Booger. He
Oh,
came knowing that name. He is maybe a year or two younger than me. And then we have Athena,
awesome.
who's a scarlet macaw, and she's
oh,
probably 5 or 6 now. And then my mom's bird, which is a little demon seed, because she doesn't like me. She tolerates me, but she loves my mom. Her name
Uh-huh.
is Angel. And
oh,
Oh,
she's a cockatoo of some sort. I don't know exactly what kind because she looks like a smaller sulfur crested cockatoo, or maybe like a larger Goffin cockatoo for people who knows what those look
I'm
like.
gonna have to
But
Google
yeah,
these for
but they're
sure.
all very beautiful and all very interesting in their own ways. Kind of like we're all different in our own ways. They're different in their own ways too. So,
Um,
Yeah,
the
personalities.
bird
Sorry,
keeper,
I
mhm.
had to
Kris.
interject. We here at It's Okay to Be Gay podcast loves our
Yes,
animals, so
This
I
is
always have to ask
which is probably why I'm
about
here.
the
You love
critters.
animals.
Yay!
which brings me to my next question, Kris. So, as you have become more comfortable being yourself
Hmm.
and accepting your sexuality and being more open about who you are as a gay person, how has that like manifested itself in your current life? I guess my question is like, how are you living your authentic gay you now?
For a long time, I still had these inclinations to, even as a gay man who in the gay culture, the LGBTQI plus community is supposed to be very loving and accepting. I wasn't one of those accepting, loving people. I would
Mm-hmm.
look at people like the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. If you don't know who they are, look them up. They're a fantastic group of people. I would look at drag queens. I would look at trans people and just kind of be like, don't quite get it, but I still love you. And I've kind of
Mm-hmm.
learned from friends and going to certain events that more about who they are and what makes them who they are and learn to love them. Kind of like how I've also learned to love myself. I would look at these people that would walk around with these masks on, and I'd be kind of like, this is weird. Why are you wearing a mask? And whenever I say mask, I mean they are literally wearing a mask. Until one day
Okay.
somebody corrected me and they were like, it's not called a mask, it's called a hood. And I was like,
Yes.
okay, I don't know how I feel about that. Can't see your face. I'm not interested in that. Well, I had a really good friend of mine somebody who became a really good friend of mine that I met at rugby practice whenever I tried out for the rugby team. And I found out that he is a part of a smaller sub community of our community called the pup community.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I was kind of interested in. I grew to learn, but I was still kind of like looking at it kind of sideways, like one of those like I would like imagine a little kid looking at something and being like, I'm interested in this, but can I touch it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay? Is it gonna hurt me?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was me. And he basically showed me what it meant to be a pup. And these
Uh-huh.
people that I saw walking around in these masks, which are called hoods, are their pup hoods. It's this persona. It's for some of them, it's becoming somebody else. For some of them, like me, spoiler alert, I'm a pup. Um, it's about being authentic to who I am. Um,
Yes.
when I'm presenting as Kris, I'm very shy. I don't, you say, go into this group of people and make friends with everybody. I'm not going to do that. Stranger danger, for sure, is Kris's motto because of the things that I've been through. But when Atlas comes out, everybody's a friend. Like, there's no such thing as a stranger. Everybody needs to be talked to. Everybody needs to be loved on. Everybody needs to be hugged.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I'm living authentically me. Um, I started just before COVID, about a year before COVID, I want to say. I kind of started getting this inclination that maybe there's more to me than just being a gay man, which is that I have this
Mm-hmm.
pup persona, I guess, for lack of a better word, or pet
Mm-hmm.
persona, because there are other pets out there. There are ponies, there are kitties, there are dragons, you name it, they're out there. Um, but for this purpose, I'm just going to say pup community because that's the community I'm a part of. And I'm even wearing my collar
Yeah.
right now. It says Pup Atlas that my friend gave me. It's the original one. On the back
Uh-huh.
side, it says "Goodest Boy, Pup Atlas." Um,
Oh.
and so whenever somebody's like, "Oh, you're the best boy," I'm like, "Yep, I'm the goodest boy," and my tag literally says that. Um, and like I wear it like a proud badge, and whenever I do wear
There
it,
you go.
Yeah.
um, and it kind of like it was eye opening to me because it was everything that I wanted to be. I could finally
Mm-hmm.
be. Like, Veronica, if I saw you in the street, I would not have talked to you. Even if I saw you hanging out with David, I probably would have been like stranger danger. But if I met you as Atlas for the first time, I would have been like, "Oh, cool, she seems really nice and friendly. Let me go talk to her. Like, I want to get to
Yeah.
know this person." Um, and that all happened because I went to leather events and learned about leather. Pub community is a pet community, subculture of the leather community, which goes back for years and years and years, and it's just rich and it's beautiful. And I can go on a tangent about that community
Yeah.
and on all,
Yeah.
but I kind of learned like I hadn't felt really welcome as a human being or as a pup until I went to this event in Austin called Austin Kink Weekend, and I entered a competition on a public platform as Pup Atlas. I introduced myself to
Mhm.
people as Pup Atlas. I wasn't Kris, I was Pup Atlas. I wore my hood most of the weekend. And I entered this competition to become Lone Star Pup. I didn't win, unfortunately, but I learned a lot about who I am. Because there's an interview, they interview kind of like you two are kind of doing now, but it's more not serious per se, but it's more
Is
Yeah.
it
like I'm
is it
being
kind of like
scored.
a beauty contest?
It's like a beauty
Can I like
contest,
relate it?
exactly
Okay,
like
cool.
a pageant. It's like a drag pageant or a beauty
Pageant.
pageant,
That was the word. Yep,
except
pageant.
here's the kicker. One of my questions was because I've done drag before and I entered a beauty pageant, quote unquote. And they were like, "So you're a part of this drag system. How is that different than what you're doing now?" And I had this long conversation with them about it. And if I could narrow it down to one sentence that I should have said during that question was that was about external beauty, like how I looked, looking like a woman, looking really feminine, walking in a dress properly, swaying my hips, the way I talked, everything about who I looked on the outside. Whereas this was
Mm-hmm.
everything about who I am on the inside.
Mm,
And that was the real
Yeah.
beauty in it. Because I have
yeah.
nothing against pageants. I love pageants. I love going to drag pageants. They're fantastic to watch. Um,
Yeah.
but this was more about like who I was as a person, not what I
Mm-hmm.
presented. And part of it was about what I presented, how I looked, how I composed myself. They were watching me all weekend, making sure I didn't get sloppy drunk, making sure that I didn't do anything illegal or anything like that. I didn't. Look, so that's not why I lost.
That's me every weekend.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
exactly. Um, so that's kind of how I felt about that. And I didn't feel, I felt more me, I guess, than I had ever before. Maybe partially because I have a custom hood. That's a thing that you can get. It is where you go online and you order your hood to look a certain way. Like the ears are a certain way, the snout is a certain way, you have certain markings on it, certain colors, things like
Mhm.
that. And whenever I put it on for the first time, it was just like being hugged. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
like for people who love hugs, no offense to those who don't, sorry if you don't, you should learn how to love them because hugs are freaking fantastic. Like it was just a warm embrace. And that's what I felt at
Yeah.
Austin Geek Weekend is I felt a warm embrace from everybody that I didn't know before. I made
Yeah.
so many friends that I have here now that went down there. And it was a beautiful experience.
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's so cool. I love hearing people finding the groups of your people,
Right. Yeah.
wherever it may be. It's like you said, it's like it's a warm embrace.
Mhm.
It's like coming home. It just like feels natural.
Exactly.
That's
And
Very
awesome.
fun.
go ahead.
I was going to say, so I know a little bit about the
Uh-huh.
pup community. Like my ex boyfriend is a member of the pup community, and I think it is really interesting because a lot of those people who are into pup play and who are members of the pup community or members of like the furry
Mhm.
community and et cetera, all these different subgroups, they tend to be a little more introverted and tend to be a little more
Mhm.
shy.
I've noticed
And
that.
then as soon as they put that hood on or they put their, their furry costume on or whatever, and people can like no longer really identify exactly who this
Mhm.
is unless this, oh, that's the guy, I know him, whatever. And oh, there's Pup Atlas. I recognize his custom mask or
Exactly.
custom. No, but I think it breaks down a little bit for the individual who is participating in the pup play or the pup. It breaks down those inhibitions where like you don't have to worry so much about people judging you or what people are thinking about
Mhm.
you because there's this whole other like person that you get to be, and I think that's uh maybe not as common in the drag community, because I think that well, at least most of the drag queens that I know are a little more extroverted,
Hmm.
but it's similar to that, where like they put on this other persona and then they can be like a totally different person, and they're like all those inhibitions are just gone, and they can go and be like free and not have to worry about anybody thinking about their like other self, I guess.
Exactly.
um but yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic there, and I think it's a great outlet
Hmm.
for people to let them explore being around more people and being more like physical with other people, when normally that's not something that would be like your mental state, like as Kris does, just doesn't allow you to do
Exactly.
that.
And
um
I don't know what it is exactly. Actually, I lied. I know exactly what it is about being in my hood that makes me want to be more me. It's because part of me is I've spent so much of my life pretending to be something I'm not, pretending to be a straight man, pretending to be totes mask bro. And then I kind of,
yeah,
whenever I discovered drag, I was like, okay, this is kind of more towards what I like, but I do it and I enjoy it, but I'm not a drag queen by any means. I'm not super fish. I'm not really good at makeup. I'm not any of those things, but I enjoy it, and it's something that I can do to raise money for charity. Whereas whenever I'm Atlas, and whenever Atlas gets to come out, it's because with drag you just are you're just yourself pretty much is what I have come to notice in myself personally. Um, But whenever I'm Atlas, you have to go into what is called headspace, which is where it's different for everybody. Some people it's putting on this what's called a collar, whether it be a real dog collar or a chainmail collar or just a necklace that makes them feel more like a dog, or
mhm,
cat or whatever. And for me, it's like wearing my collar. It's not here nor there, but I actually have it next to me. I got it out
yeah.
just for this because I figured you'd be recording. But when
Yay.
Oh,
Atlas comes out, this is Atlas. When I
Oh.
put Atlas
oh,
on,
yeah.
I immediately start going into Headspace because, as you can see, there's two little eye holes. So my sight
Mhm.
from basically like the left side of my hand over, I can't really see much. My sense of smell is kind of down a little bit because all I can smell is my breath, and I can smell the neoprene that this hood is made out of. And
Yep.
then, unless you talk loud, like I'm a very loud talker naturally, you can't really hear me that well. And then you have these things covering your ears, and it just muffles them. And that immediately puts me into headspace of, oh, now, like that meme, am doggo.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's basically
Yes.
what I become. I don't really necessarily bark at people. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, do you bark at people? Do you go pee on things? Like, do you things like that?" I'm like, some people do, some people don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Mhm.
But I still get into that headspace of, oh, they look lonely, they look sad. Let me go love on them and show them. Because at the end of the day, who doesn't love a puppy dog? Like, even if you don't
Right.
like
Mhm.
animals, you can look at a cute little puppy and be like, okay, it's at least cute. I don't like it, but it's at least cute.
Eh.
Yeah. That's a very niche and very
Hmm.
unique subgroup, and I think it's I mean, for some people that is just exactly what they need, and it's really impressive that you've like found that and embraced that
Hmm.
and let that become a part of like who you are, living your authentic self. So that's yeah, that's really cool.
And
Mhm.
this is honestly when my second birthing happened. I kind of alluded to it earlier that I had a second birthing. It was my second birthing wasn't in Dallas, it was in Austin. Because before that, I
Hmm.
kind of hid from everybody except for a select group of people that I'm a pup. Um, but then whenever I was in Austin, being on this public platform for this competition, I couldn't hide it anymore. I had to be me, and if I wasn't me, then
Yeah.
it wouldn't be well reciprocated.
Mhm.
Right. No, that's beautiful, man. And so as you've come to like figure out this identity as a pup, and um be a little more open with your sexuality in your personal life and in your social media and that sort of thing, do you think that that's made your life easier, or are there difficulties that still come with that?
I feel like the initial coming out made my life easier. because I wasn't worried about hiding it. Um, this weekend was only a month ago, so I'm still kind of learning how to be more open with it to people that may not know about pup play, like people that I know either don't know about it, don't want to know about it, don't like it. Um,
Hmm.
and but it's very freeing. So I don't want to say it's easier,
Mhm.
but it's definitely freeing because I went into max exodus on my Facebook. I removed a lot of people that I knew just wouldn't appreciate me, love me for my authentic self. And
Hmm.
whenever I made my initial post, I did a photo shoot with somebody out in Zilker Park, which is a major park down in Austin that people take dogs to, funny enough. And I did a photo shoot down there in some of my gear, and I posted a photo on Facebook like, this is me. This is who I am.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I remember seeing that,
Hmm.
and I was very proud and
Thank
happy
you.
for you
Yeah.
that you were at the point where you were like, you know what, find somebody else. If you don't like who I am,
Yep.
go stick your head in the hole because that's
Yeah.
just too bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
So
not about liking everybody else. It's just letting people be who they want to be and what makes you
Right.
comfortable and what makes you feel loved and authentic.
Mhm.
So there's no shame in doing that for
Right. Just
anybody.
be as you are.
yeah,
Like,
Yep.
exactly.
Exactly.
So in your course of all these different things that you have gone through, and in your relatively young
hmm
life, you're quite a bit younger than Veronica and myself are, and maybe other people out there who are listening. But there's advice to be shared at any stage and at any level. And all these different things that you've gone through, Kris, you have plenty of baggage and plenty of
hmm
experience that you've brought with you to this point, and you've come out, on this side of things still. But for people who are experiencing maybe things that you went through at a younger age, if you had had a mentor, you had had a guide, or you had known somebody, what would you have wanted to hear from somebody, that would have been helpful for you as a younger person, unpacking and growing and still like accepting who you were going to become?
Um, I've said it a lot. I'm going to say it again. Just be as you are. You may not understand what that means at first, but now that I'm closer to 30 than I am 20, so I'm not that much younger, but still closer to 30 than I am 20 now. Having somebody just tell me and finding a song called Be As You Are by Mike Posner and then really relating to it and how he goes to his mom at different stages in his life and she just says, Be as you are. That's kind of what my mom did to me too. I'd go to her at points in my life and she'd just say, Be as you are. Like, just be your authentic self. And if they love you, they love you. And if they don't, they're not meant to be. And that's what I would tell
Yep.
my younger self. I would never, people have asked me before, would I go back and change anything that I've done in my life? And while I wouldn't want anything that's happened to me to be changed, I would definitely want somebody to know like it's going to be okay in the end.
Yeah, yeah, that's really wise. That's great. I
Thank
love it.
you.
Just be as you
Yeah.
are. Very good, man. I wish somebody had told me that when I was 13.
Right?
Just be as you are. It's
Yeah,
fine.
just
Yeah.
I mean, some
Yeah.
kids are
Just
outside playing and talking to friends and riding bikes and stuff like that in fourth and fifth grade. And for me, fourth and fifth grade was whenever I first contemplated suicide. And if somebody had told me just to be as I am, then I may have never thought the world would be a better place without me. Which is why I want to
yeah.
live a life that I show people like the world is better because you're in it. And as long as you're bringing
Mm.
Yeah.
happiness and joy to others, there's no reason for you to not be a part of it. I say that because there are athletes out
Right.
there that are going to take and take and take, but there are people
Yep.
that I
Right.
know are listening right now that just need someone to lean on, and I try and be that for people, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, you've
Everybody
been
needs.
such a good
Thank
example
you.
of of accepting and going with your heart and your soul to what is
Hmm
you. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah. I can speak to your person, Kris. You have a great
Thank
heart
you.
and you are a wonderful person. Uh, kind and respectful and a true, I think,
Thank
helper.
you.
Uh,
It's called
for
called
sure.
a support pup.
There you go. The world is definitely a better place with you in it,
Hey, thank
Kris.
you.
And I think the world will be an even better place as more people hear your
Mhm.
story and get to know you in your real life in person as
Thank
well.
you.
So keep doing the amazing things that you're doing because it's going to be good. It's going to be good for you, and it's going to be good for a lot of other
Thank
people
you.
who have an opportunity to interact with
Yeah, I
you. Yeah, and I'm
can't wait because I'm actually competing again. I'm competing in Oklahoma this time in July for Oklahoma City Route 66 Pup, and
oh
I
wow,
can't wait for that because I want to. It's more of an educational course. I'll be educating.
uh,
I have to teach a class on something,
oh that's fun.
and yeah, it's going to be a great time.
Okay, so
Good luck.
when is that? Where is it? Because maybe people out here listening will hear this and
Yeah.
will know.
Route 66 Pup, Boot Black, Route 66 Pup, Route 66 Boot Black, um, Route 66 Leatherman, stuff like that is a competition. Route 66 Bear is another part of it. There's like several categories. Um,
Wow.
and it's in Oklahoma. It's at a hotel out there that is gracious enough to host us. This is my first time going, but after being as well received in Austin as I was, I want to go to Oklahoma. And whether
Uh-huh.
or not I win the title of Route 66 Pup, I want to go to other parts of the United States and eventually see the world and just be like, hey, like for that little gay boy or girl that's out there that doesn't quite feel like something is right with them, just be as you are because it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be gay. And you are loved, you are welcomed, and you are important.
Absolutely.
That is so true. I love it. So July 20th to
Oh, he's
23rd in
fast.
Oklahoma
Yep.
City. Yeah. Hey man, the internet's not me. Yeah, Kink Weekend, Route 66, July 20th to 23rd in Oklahoma City. Tickets are reasonably
hmm
priced. You can go online to okckinkweekend.com and check it out. There's a lot of different competitions and a lot of different events that are going on for that time period there. So, yeah, that sounds like a fun
Yeah.
time. And first of all, I'm surprised as all get out that it's being held in
Hey,
Oklahoma.
kinky people
But
are
that's awesome.
everywhere, and it's what I love about it is
Oh,
it's not just if you're male presenting, but if you're female presenting, or if you're somewhere in between or
yeah,
nowhere in between, you have a space, and that's
Yeah.
what I
love
found is that everybody has a space. And
that's
hmm
so fun. At the District
Awesome.
Hotel
the
in
district
Oklahoma
hotel.
City, July 23rd. So check it out. That's fantastic. I love it.
Absolutely.
And also, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it already, and I could pull up the numbers if I was on my other computer. But Kris actually submitted a story to the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast, which is on our
hmm
website, it's okay to be gay podcast.com, under the Your Stories tab. His story is entitled Doggone It, and I encourage everybody to go check that out in the meantime. So Kris, thank you for sharing that story first of all, and
Thank you.
for also coming on the podcast and for sharing your story here as well, because a lot of other people are going to see this and also hear this all over the
Yep,
world. As a matter of
I love it. Thank you.
we have, so yeah, it's really cool.
So
Um,
it was really nice to meet you, Kris, and hear about you and learn your
And hey,
story.
thank you for being an ally because the world needs more allies, no matter who they are, everybody needs someone that they can lean on.
That's so
Absolutely.
right.
Thank you.
Veronica is a great ally. I can
hmm
attest to that, uh, as I'm sure so many other people can
Uh-huh.
as well. Uh, Kris, any last parting words? Any other thoughts?
Um, no, I think we pretty much covered it all. Just be, if you take anything from this, be as you are. I mean, I know I'm not going to stop saying that. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to be
I love
different. It's okay to be vanilla. It's okay to be kinky. I mean, just be you. Be your authentic self, and people think.
that's right. Hey, everybody out there listening, thank you for tuning into the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast. I greatly appreciate all you guys' love and support. Please know that you are recognized and appreciated here. And as always, I am grateful for you guys tuning in and hearing all these wonderful stories, but especially Kris, I
Thank you.
appreciate you coming on, your very personal and intimate story, so that other people can have that to rely on as they're going forth and unpacking their lives as their authentic, true person in the LGBTQ plus
Hmm.
community. So incredible. Thank you so much. And for everybody out there, have a great rest of your week, and we will see you guys next time on the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast.
Thank you. Bye.